Crossroads friends, thank you so much for meeting with us today in this video that we've got coming together here. I've got my friend to my left. This is Ken Ivins with AMG International, and he has been a really good friend of mine over the last 5 to 6 years. And I'm going to talk to you. We're going to talk about things about trends in missions and what's going on in missions and just a lot of different things of that nature, what he has seen, what he has noticed. And so, Ken, first of all, as I try to stay uh, coordinated, as you have kept me coordinated over the years, first of all, first question, Ken, you've been with AMG International since 2009.
That's correct.
Yes, yes. Your duties have been primarily leading teams in mission trips, representing AMG, developing relationships with AMG national workers. What was your experience prior to that?
As I thought about my missions experience, it actually started when I was 12 years old, and I went on a missions trip with my youth group to Howard County, Maryland, where we did VBS. We did some Bible clubs outside in people's homes, and the missions really started there in my heart. And from there, just every year I was involved in some form of mission trip as I was going through youth group, and then ultimately as I became a youth pastor, making sure we did domestic trips to Ohio and New York and Alaska, other places like that, and then also international trips. We took a number of trips to Puerto Rico. And then since then, been able to come on with AMG. My wife actually went on a trip with AMG in 2008, and that's how I ended up here because she went on a trip and said, my wife needs to do this, or my husband needs to do this, and sure enough, God gave me the opportunity to join in January 2009.
Okay.
So,
wow. Okay.
That's kind of the background there.
Okay.
Of missions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What before with your experiences with leading the mission trips with AMG, some previous ministry experiences you've had?
Well, I was a youth pastor.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that obviously played into some of the abilities to work with people and discipleship and all that stuff, because I thought mission trips are a huge part of discipleship. And the mission trips are not where discipleship starts; it's where discipleship is continued. Okay. So I think that's really the issue. The process starts, and then you bring on mission trip. It really kind of it's like a what do they call that? Pressure cooker. You have an experience outside your normal experiences. You're eating different foods, meeting different people, sleeping in different beds, and all of a sudden you get to see people in a 24-hour-a-day experience. To learn who the real people are.
Yeah, you see what people are really like. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Whether or not they're sleeping or not. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal. I just as you have led trips. My second question: as you have led trips, where have the majority of these trips led you with these groups? Where's been the primary?
Since coming on with AMG. I've been to 9 different countries throughout the world. Peru and Guatemala are my predominant ones. I've been to, of course, Mexico and Haiti and Uganda, Romania, Greece, Cyprus, and the Philippines. Went just one time because it's so far away.
Yeah,
a great trip. Yeah. But yeah, I give me the opportunity to go to 9 different countries. And as we talked even earlier, a lot of it's this side of the globe.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess that leads into the third question. What are some trends you're noticing in mission travel currently?
Well, I would say we got this COVID thing going on, and so prior to COVID, I think the church did become more interested in international travel. I think we got involved in interest in going internationally because the cost of traveling internationally is cheaper. I do think that there was a lot of stuff we found ourselves really doing a lot of training and helping the American church realize that we do a lot more harm than good when we go. If we don't have the right mindset, don't have the right objectives, really focusing on relationship over projects. Because you go to the American church, and I was telling, as a matter of fact, I was at a church just yesterday, and I told them it's funny if I tell you we're going to work with kids all week, we're going to love on kids, we're going to share the gospel with kids, and we're going to talk to their families and interact with their families. Someone in the church is going to say, well, what project are you going to do? What are you going to accomplish while you're there? And I'm saying, I just told you what we're going to accomplish. But the church really had this idea of we got to do something for someone else in order to be successful. Right. And the truth is, the things that last eternally are the relationships we have.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's where one of the focuses we've tried to move toward is, hey, what is preeminent and most important is relationship.
Right.
And so we share Christ verbally as well as in actions and activities. But really, that's the key element.
Yeah.
What project we complete? I took a picture at my last trip of a painting one of my team members did back in 2010. Beautiful image, but it's probably the only thing that has stood since 2010 as it relates to paint. Because since then they've painted everything else, and they've painted over other murals. It just happens to be this mural is one that they haven't touched as of yet. And so when we make it about the project, we can miss the real objective of what we're really about.
Yeah, a lot of times developing people, working with people, it is a long haul. It's a long race. You're in it. It's a marathon, if you will.
Right.
We tend to think what's tangible and what we see as Americans.
Right.
I've always heard that and read that, and you're right. It's like many times we have to work with people to develop that relationship. I'm going to talk about Crossroads Romania a little bit later, as you've really been a huge encouragement to me in this. One of the things that I have learned is when I first went, there were a lot of people who were hesitant to speak to me because they were, I think, in their minds, and I found this out later, is that guy coming back? I don't want to get so close to knowing that guy.
Right.
And when I'd come back, it was like all of a sudden I'd see personality that came out. I was like, where's that been? And I found out that it was a part of the, okay, I don't know if that guy's going to come back.
Right.
I'm not going to get too close to that guy.
Right.
But I believe you're right, though. Yeah, that's interesting. You started out with that talking about.
Well, I think the other aspect of relationship is the front side. The other side of it is going as an American and recognizing that we're learning. We're going with the intention of learning from our national workers. There in Romania, our national workers lead the way. They tell us how to do ministry. They tell us what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and what is the best way to do it. Because when we lead the way, we oftentimes do things that aren't right. And so as you asked that first that question about what I saw pre-COVID, those were kind of our things. Post-COVID, the issue now is the church has kind of shrunk in and said, hey, man, we got to take care of ourselves, got to keep ourselves healthy. We're more hesitant to travel internationally, more hesitant to move across borders because, we might get stuck there, we might get sick there, all this kind of stuff. And I really do think we need to wrestle with our trust and faith. If God has called me somewhere, no matter where in the world I am, it's the safest place I can be.
Right.
So,
yeah. So those are things that you've noticed. That's interesting. I didn't think about that. Pre-COVID, post-COVID. And so the church is kind of let's make these priorities a little more closer to home.
Yeah. What's going on local in our local church? Let's kind of get people here and bring people here. Let's make it a way for us to reach them. Making it a convenient way for us to reach them. And Zoom has been an awesome thing as it relates to, hey, we can contact people all around the globe without leaving our house. So let's just kind of do that. Let's just get people onto our Zoom thing. What they don't realize is, and I'll tell you, I've done many Zoom conversations. As a matter of fact, I just went to Guatemala a couple weeks ago with a team that I had only Zoomed with for the most part prior to the trip. And man, that first connection at the airport, hey man, good to see you guys. It's amazing what personal contact, how different that is than being, even my grandkids. I love talking to my grandkids via Zoom, but it's not the same as hugging them and holding them.
Right. Virtual is one thing, but there's nothing like being here, hugging, shaking hands, and things of that nature. Go ahead.
So it has its benefit. I mean, Zoom is beneficial for us to go out there, and I think the church is going, hey, wow, we have this tool, we can touch people all around the globe, and we don't have to leave. The problem is it is a touch, but it's not the same as being in the same room. It's not shaking the hand, hugging the person, eating dinner, eating meals with them. You can put them on the other end of the table and eat your meal while they eat their meal, but it's not quite the same. Right. So that's where kind of we as a church, we need to look and say, hey, we got to get out there and continue to connect with people because relationship is really the face-to-face, the connecting, the hand-to-hand shakes, all that stuff. The real relationship.
And when we went back in July of 2021 to Romania. The mask thing, it was aggravating. It was aggravating. On the plane, you do all these checks and, hey, I'm good to go, I'm good to go, but you're still, I can see, and I remember being at the Amsterdam airport, and there was a lot of grumbling. I think Scripture talks about gnashing and gnarling of teeth. There were people who were not happy with that, and so yes, I can see where people, travel is not what it used to be. And I've even heard flight attendants say that as they talk with, they'll get to know some of the some of the folks who are flying. They'll say, hey, I've been doing this 20 years. It's not the same as it was when I started, and things of that nature. So yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, factors that play into that too.
Well, I just had a team member on my last trip that tested positive the day before she left. So she was not vaccinated, so she had to test to go to Guatemala. And so she tested positive, wasn't able to go. And so that's a legitimate frustration. But here's what I go back to, man. Every time I've taken a trip, since 2009, we've taken trips, and we've seen other team members for other reasons. I had a gentleman whose mother passed away 2 days before the trip. Right? He didn't end up going, and it was not surprising. But the fact is, it wasn't a surprise to God either that he didn't go on that trip at that time. Mm-hmm. And this girl who didn't get to go on this trip a couple weeks ago, same thing. Not a surprise to God that she didn't get to go. Right? Frustrating for her, irritating for her. Yes, I believe all of that is true. But the fact is, we have to rest in the fact that if God wants us there, we will get there, and He'll take us there. Right. And for me, as it relates to training, just the training process of preparing for a missions trip is sufficient. And if I never take the trip, the things along the way that got me there, that kind of helped me to think differently about the world, helped me think differently about myself, helped me think differently about the gospel, and sharing my testimony and sharing my faith, it arms me for my day to day. And so when I do get to go, that's just icing on the cake, because that's what I'm really looking forward to. But the rest of it is beneficial. Yes, I hope that this young lady gets to go on our next trip.
Right.
But this last one, God said, no, not this trip. Yeah. And it says
there's even theology being taught here.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do too much.
Yeah. Sovereignty of God. Yeah. God's sovereignty. He's in charge of those things. He knows who will be there, and He'll make a way for you to go. And so even the church, the evangelical churches, we've taught that. We've been strong in doctrine. Now it's time to put that to practice. Is that kind of what?
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I would believe in theory. It's just all of a sudden now, God's not the God of the COVID. God's a little, He doesn't know what He's doing. He's kind of a little. I don't want to make plans for the future. And here's the funny thing: I don't want to make plans for the future because COVID might mess them up. Well, the fact is, James makes it very clear. Don't worry about tomorrow. Making those plans is not a bad thing, but recognizing I hold those plans very open-handedly. What's cool for me, and we've seen this numerous times on our trip, when I lay out our plans, we sit down and we say, hey, our plan's going to look like A, B, C, D, and E. Our whole trip is scheduled out. But when God takes that trip and just trumps it and says, hey, I got a better idea. I want to do something else with you. It's a whole lot better trip. Right. It's amazing what God does when He kind of throws it. So really, our lives are that way. We should live that way in such a way that we say, yes, this is our plan. This is what we're working toward. We're saving money toward our mission trip. We're giving money to our mission trip. We're heading this direction. But God says, something? Not today. He's got better plans. Mm-hmm. And although we don't always understand it, and sometimes we don't even like it, mm-hmm. It's still, we rest in the fact that that's what He's got for us. Right. And that's true day to day. You came here this morning, driving through the rain, God brought you here. But all the things could have happened between there and here that said, something, Phil, you're not going to make it today for whatever reason. And we don't know those things. And so we rest in the fact that God's good all the time, and everything that He does is for good.
Right. So, right. Yeah, that's right. And you may be sitting there thinking, hey, God's put something in, or He's doing something in me where I'm making plans, I'm working toward this. But at the same time, those plans what may be a part of that plan is you keeping your hand open, thinking, okay, this is what I put on paper, but the Lord may not be A, B, C, and D. It may be more like A, E, D, B, and then C comes after E again. It may be just all different sorts of things. And that's what I have learned with when we will do the basketball camp. I'd had this all planned out. This is what we would, just stick with the simple 2 or 3 things. If we can do that in 2 hours, we've accomplished much. So I understand. I see that. So God's sovereignty in trips and how He brings things together. So that brings me to my next thing. Since 2016, Crossroads of East Tennessee, that's me, and AMG International, we have partnered in a ministry that I've called Crossroads Romania, and we go to Shallowford, Romania, which is down on the border, and Ken is going to show a T-shirt. Yes, and so the backside, yes, 2022, and so we didn't go in 2020, made 2 trips in 2019, so that made up for that. So anyway, we're going back, and but it's a partnership that we've had, and I want to say I'm going to brag on Ken. He has been a big part of encouraging me to go the next step and helping me with things where I have weaknesses in. He has really helped me with that as far as administration and organization and what we can do. And so, let me like for example, I've in introducing this project and encouraging people to go, I have found personally with people that I've talked to about going, and I've talked to thousands of people about going. I see a couple of things at work here. Number one, people are hesitant. Number two, they are dismissing the trip. For example, quote, I can't go at this time. They're quick to say that. They're real quick without even praying about it, thinking it through. It's just real quick to, and I can't judge people's hearts. I don't know. I'm just making an opportunity and I share with it. I have a lot of passion about this project that we've been doing. And so, but either hesitant or dismissing the trip, or number three, people are looking for a way to quote, say no. I've seen that sometimes with folks, and that's my observation. And please tell me where I'm right or wrong on that. Have you witnessed anything like that? Is that
yeah? I mean, we lay opportunities out there regularly, and it really it seems to me when someone has a passion of their own, they're more inclined to jump into something and embracing that and seeing that passion. And what's interesting to me is I tell team members, you're going to go back and you're going to share your passion with someone else, and they're just not going to embrace it in the same way you'd like them to, because they haven't seen what you've seen, they haven't experienced what you've experienced, they haven't had the relationships you've had, and that, so it's because of that they're hearing your stories, and you're a great storyteller. You can tell them all day long about all these things they can see, but people are like, man, I mean, Romania, it's a 10-day trip. I mean, that's a short. Now you've shortened it to it's a shorter version than it used to be.
Right.
And when people are looking and going, man, 14 days being gone, 15 days, that's a long time to be away from home. It's just, and of course the cost of getting there, and Romania just sounds scary. I mean, you look at Eastern Europe or Western Europe, Eastern Europe,
yeah.
And they look at it and they kind of go, oh wow, I don't know if I want to, it's of course we're not far from Ukraine right now. People going, well, I don't know about that. Sounds like a whole lot like problems over there.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that stuff that people don't know, haven't experienced, and you're going to them, man, I've been there, I've seen it, I've done that. Why don't you jump on board with my excitement, my enthusiasm? And of course, seeing what God has done from 2016 to now is amazing. Mm-hmm. As we watched, from even one of your first days and talking about what it was like for the basketball chaos. Right. A bunch of kids at a camp to something that's very structured to actually a team being built. Mm-hmm. I mean, you share that stuff and you figure people will get on board. I think some of it really has to be us praying that God provides the right people. And I think that historically, the right people have gone.
Right.
And I think that we pray for the right people to come in the future. And as we see a need for more people going, I think we're going to see more people coming. Right. So that's what we pray toward.
Right.
But yeah, what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, you experience it all across the board.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just, I don't see. Yeah. I mean, we've shortened our trip. I mean, we were, 12 days. Now we're down to about, actually there in Colorado, 7 days max. Right. With a day or two, right, one side or the other, going there, coming back. It just seems like people are looking for a convenient trip.
Right. That is true.
Is that
well,
right?
Think about it. I mean, a lot of people have 2 weeks vacation, maybe 3 weeks vacation. And so thinking I can give that 1 week of that vacation, to this. I want to do a family vacation, and we use our other vacation time for holidays and other types of get-togethers. So like, man, I got 1 week to give. That's it. That's all I can afford to give away. And I understand that. And I always say it's not fair because I get paid to go on the trips that you guys are taking vacation for. I mean, it's what I do for a living. But at the same time, my wife goes with me on 1 trip a year. Why? Because she has 1 week of vacation out of the 2 she's got, and she uses that for her trips. So I understand that. On the other side, though, what am I willing to sacrifice and give that says, something, I might lose a day or 2 extra at work, or I might lose a couple more days at work. Can God remedy that? Can God care for if He's called me to go, is finances most important? Is my vacation time most important? What am I willing to give up for the gospel? And I think we are living in an age of a convenient gospel, living we follow God when it doesn't hurt too bad. I mean, it hurts a little bit, it doesn't hurt too bad. We give to God when it's, and we have a little bit extra we can give to God because we have a little extra. But do we give to God the things that cost us something?
Right.
I think we're kind of taught that way even from youth. As an American, you just do what's comfortable, do what's best for you. I think as a church, we've kind of embraced that as well.
Right. Because I think about, I don't see a lot of emphasis on, I mean, for example, are we seeing trips to India? Are we seeing trips to, just that Far East? As you mentioned, it's a long way. Yeah, the Philippines, right? It's a long. Just getting there, we're out.
Right.
I'm sure. I have no doubt. Because even going to when we go to Colorado, I mean, I thought about this going there. It's basically Romania uses a Latin alphabet, like here in the States, and but surrounded by, you have to the far south Greece, which uses a Greek alphabet, different type of writing, and then they're surrounded by Ukraine, Bulgaria, Serbia, Slavic nations, and they use a different type of alphabet. It's similar to Greek, and so that I thought about this. We go to the Far East where that Latin alphabet is used, and so it's a long way. It's a long trip, but yeah, I just wonder sometimes. I just think about that sometimes. I don't, I see, and I'm not knocking trips anywhere at all, but I'll see 20 people going to here, and I'll see a handful of people going a long way.
Right.
And I'll give a history of Crossroads, Romania. 2016, we took 6 people. 2017, 6 people. 2018, 3 people. 2019, you and I went. And then Chris Crow, who's going with us this time, he went with me in spring of late winter, early spring of 2019. And then 2021, you and I went back. And so, anyway, and then this year it's the 3 of us, you and myself and Chris. And so I guess with that said, I don't see the volumes of people, as I know I'm speaking in circles here, but yeah, I don't see that volume of people who are really wanting or desirous. And I think we should pray. I thought about this, so.
That's what Christ said.
Yeah.
Harvest is white already, and especially with this ministry that's happening. And I do see this, like you went 2016, 2017, kind of figuring out what ministry looked like. I think 2019 and 2021, we really got to see it and say, hey, wow, we got a good idea. And they start talking next steps and what this ministry is going to look like. And I think we have a real good, clear view. And so this year as we get to go, we get to see them really and help them move that direction. I think in the future, you have more of a need for more people as opposed to in the years past, with the workers that they had. And of course, we love doing ministry in conjunction with the Nationals. And so with the workers they had, the workers we had sufficient staff to do what we needed to do. But we're looking at the future and going, no, there's greater things coming. And so we need more people to be a part of that. We pray that way, we talk that way, and I'm sure God will provide the ones that we need to have there.
Yeah, and let me clarify, this Crossroads Romania project is basically, it's a basketball sports ministry that has been established. When a member of our board, who also was here with AMG, Pat Reagan, he said, Phil, let me tell you something. There is a guy who does a similar ministry in Colorado, Romania, and of what you do locally in Cleveland, Tennessee. And I said, okay. I said, wow. He said, I've always had a burden, and I've just kind of the Balkans region of Europe has always been heavy on me. And I prayed about this, and I said, Pat, I think now is the time. We talked about this for a few years, and so we had this opportunity. And basically, the first trip was, even though we just went, it was an exploratory trip, even though it was still.
Right.
And you talk about sovereignty. I'm glad we had at least 6 people, because we probably dealt with 100 people in the morning and in the evening and it was. I remember taking Advil like it was candy. My head was pounding and having to work through that, but it was awesome.
Trips
No, I'm not. But it's the reality of what we have to deal with, and things like that. That I've just learned that. But I was grateful for that, and so yeah, it is amazing talking about the progress.
Mhm.
Has it been slow? Yes, but then at the same time, I'm thinking we have come. God has brought us a long way.
5 years. It's been
You know,
amazing.
yeah. And so let me share with you all a little bit about some of the this about Crossroads, Romania. Um, there's a pastor there, Julian Vasili, who we have. He's that's his hometown, Colorado. We are working with a native person, a person who's local, and he knows a lot of people in the community, and he's grown up there, and so we basically just gone to help him in developing this basketball ministry. I was the one who I'm not saying I came up with the idea, but it was something that I thought, hey, that's all I know is sports. So when we went there, it was like, hey, have you thought about basketball? And so it's still foreign to them, but they're further along than they were. They're learning. And so I think even Julian and some of the folks there within his church have kind of grasped this and said, hey, we can develop some things. So we're just trying to help now. And so more consulting and things of that nature. So, any thoughts on what you've said? I mean, you've shared quite a bit, but what is anything you want to add to that?
Oh, I think it's exciting that they've moved from just a camp in the summertime that the Americans come in and join with them to do to a steady, plodding coaching scenario, and actually desiring to build a team, and not for the sake of huge competition, but actually of developing young people. And I love the heart of the pastor. His desire really is to use sports as a tool to step into the lives of the kids and their families, and really just be able to connect with them. So when you put on a quality program, I mean, even to the extent that they want to be trained, they want to be licensed to actually coach, going through that process. And so we're walking through that process for them to be able to be licensed to coach, to know what they're talking about. And that's really what we bring to the table.
Right.
You bring to the table most of them. Is being able to say, hey, here's the drills you need to run, here's the things you need to do in order to do coaching well. And his desire is to do that, not to develop great basketball players or be the next, NBA star that sneaks out of Romania and ends up in the U.S., but it's to create a relationship with him and other coaches that are coaching other sports and say, hey, listen, we're running this quality program here, and it gives them validity there and gives them an opportunity to talk the gospel to the coaches. For the families, that they see these kids walking around in these uniforms, and being able to say, hey, these guys are part of that group. Who is that group? It's a group that's sharing the gospel through basketball. And then, of course, one-on-one discipleship with the kids, they develop them through. We see that time and time again, the benefit of sports. Kid loses his mind, gets mad, gets frustrated. You get the opportunity to talk with them and disciple them in that process right there and then and now. And so, I love his passion to use that. It's not about basketball. It's not about making superstars. It's about teaching them quality basketball, because if it's Christian, it should be better. Jerry Falwell used to always say when I was at Liberty, if it's Christian, it ought to be better. But on top of that, it actually gives them an opportunity to use that tool in an effective way in the kids' lives, in the families' lives, in the neighborhood lives. That other people, even last time we went, we took all these jerseys that Fanatics had donated to AMG, and we took these jerseys out there, and kids all over the place are wearing Golden State Warrior jerseys.
Yeah.
We're driving around the area, and you're seeing Golden State Warrior jerseys everywhere, and people are going, where in the world these jerseys come from? Well, they came from this little ministry, this pastor who has a desire to share Christ with people. It's just a phenomenal thing to be a part of.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's really a great point about it's not basketball is the tool, the vehicle to minister, share Christ, evangelize. That's the means by which, that's our hope.
Right.
When we go. And I was really, when Julian has and some of the guys there that we work with, Terrence and Don, they have drafted a nice little kind of a philosophy of ministry. And I was very impressed with it. It's very good, and this is what they want to do. And so we want them to. I never will forget about this time a year ago when we did the Zoom. Speaking of the virtual, and one of the things that was brought out, Phil, we want to go to the next level. And I was like, do you know what the next level looks like? But do you see what we're talking? And so they've really come a long way, and it's been really good. And I'm excited for the guys there as we help them get to that and everything. So Yeah, great point. Let me. I think we've kind of shared with the beginning and the development and even the future looks like. Let me share this with you on Messenger. Uh, Julian sent us pictures, and they've got some Colorado United. That's kind of what they call themselves, the ministry, the overall sports ministry, but. Had nice little Boston Celtics colors going there, you know. So yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I'm really excited for them, and we want to try to help them get to that point. Just learning some basics about basketball, and it is interesting when we get Yulian will send us a 30-second clip of their basketball, and it is amazing how far they've come. It's really coming together here. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and ask. Go ahead. Go ahead. You got to.
No, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
my encouragement to you guys listening, if you have a passion for basketball, if you enjoy coaching, I think one of the things that you're talking about earlier, one of the things oftentimes, I'm not really sure how to share the gospel. I'm not really sure that I'm really good enough or qualified enough to be effective somewhere else in the world, but I love basketball, and I can listen to whatever the coach, whatever Phil tells me I got to do, and I get out there and coach with kids. All I'm doing is showing them Christ's love by just showing them basketball and allowing that just to play out. And so my encouragement to you is, as you're listening, saying, "Man, I'd love to be a part of a trip like that, but I'm not so sure I'm qualified. I'm not sure I'm good enough. I'm not so sure I know what to say or when to say it."
Right.
Man, we work through that in the process of training, but on top of that, just the going and just seeing, hey, God, use me as you use me at home. Use me somewhere else, and let me just do what I can do. And I think you'll find that the experience will be amazing. I think you'll find the opportunity to engage in the lives of kids. You're going to want to go. I will say this: you'll want to go back. I went the first time and had to go back, and it's just a great opportunity. And so I would challenge you guys to be thinking through that. If that's really something you're thinking about, you're interested in, you like sports, you like basketball, you like coaching, we really need that for moving forward.
Yeah. Two things I want to follow up with Kent. Great points. Number one, don't think you have to be the head coach at the University of Kentucky or the University of UCLA or anywhere like that. No, we're talking about basic basketball. If you know the rules, if you know how to dribble, if you know how to just some of the basic things about shooting, you're a coach. Okay, you're there. And if that excites you, and plus just being able to go into an orthodox nation where that's where there's a small percentage of evangelicals, especially where we go. I've had somebody who is Romanian tell me that where we go is we would be considered a pioneer area. So what a great opportunity you would have, and there's a lot of history there that you're going to see and witness. So yeah, please think about those things as you consider it. And let me tell you, Ken, for the longest time I thought, okay, I'm kind of having to burden this, but I remember when we talked about getting back together and going again, Ken said, "Hey, you let me know when you're going because I'm in. I'm going on. I'm marking off my calendar." That was such an uplifting. You talk about weight coming off my shoulder. Here's a guy who's really behind me and helping me, and I want to say thank you. Thank you. That seems such an understatement, but I want to say thank you for coming alongside of me and being with me and just giving me a lot of tips on, hey, you might want to reconsider, think about that, instead of no, just kind of, he would say, hey, you might want to think, you might could do that better. And I really appreciate that, so it's been really good. Hey, let's finish up. I'm going to leave some addresses. So if you want to contact us, what have you, and I'll probably have this as I'm printing this out and putting this together. But Ken, I want to ask you one last question. If you could summarize your thoughts and your observations on mission trip travel, what are some points that have impacted you that you would pass along to others?
How much time we have? Because that really is it. There are so many lessons. AMG has a child sponsorship program, and I will tell you that I have learned more from my sponsored child, and I could go on for hours on this one because she has taught me just watching God use her in my life. Just, simple stuff like, relationship is more important than the stuff we bring. I listen to team member after team member, team leaders. We brought 20 bags, we brought 40 bags, we brought 60 bags of stuff to give away. And this little girl taught me when she was just 5 years old that stuff isn't important. Relationship is. And I could tell you the story behind that, but I don't want to spend too much time. But, giving is for everybody. We go places to give. That's great, but we got to be able to receive as well. And sometimes as Americans, we're not good at that. We want to give because it makes us feel good to give, but it makes you feel powerless when someone gives to you. And so we have to engage some of those things. Those that give freely, those that they are willing to give. God gives us so much stuff to give away, and the more I hold on to what God gives me, the more God says, "Okay, that's enough for you." When I go ahead and let it go, it's amazing how God gives it away. Whether it's my time, my energy, my resources, the more I hold on to Him, God says, "That's enough for you." When I say, "Yo, it's time to go," I let it go. There's just there's so many lessons. I have a bunch of things I wrote down as far as thoughts go.
You have that time, please share.
Really? Yeah. Well, I'll just keep on going. Because, like I said, the relationship's more important. God's timing's perfect. I've seen time and time again, God does what He does the way He does it. This last trip I was on, I told the team we hold our schedules open-handed, and sure enough, middle of the week, God said, "Yep, you're not going to this center. That center has been is under extortion, and so you guys aren't going there." And instead, God took us to another center that was exactly what the team needed. I've seen God provide in bizarre ways. We made 80 bracelets when I was in the Philippines for some kids we had ministered to. Because we had 80 kids throughout the week we were ministering to. We made 80 bracelets. And on Friday when we showed up, we had 100 kids. And the team member said to me, "What do we do?" And I said, "Sit the kids down. We'll give these bracelets out. And when we're done, we're done." And we gave out 100 bracelets. And I still to this day have no idea how we have 100 bracelets when we made and counted 80 of them. And God provided 100 bracelets. So God has always provided whatever we need, whenever we need it. God has provided for me before I needed it. I went on one trip in particular a long time ago that someone had given me some stuff, and I set it aside. I'm like, I really don't need this stuff. But last minute, I packed it in my bags and said, "Yeah, okay, throw it in there." And they had given it to me a month or two earlier. And I packed it in my bags, and I took it with me. And I got there, and I had a need for something, and I forgot that I'd even packed that stuff. And sure enough, someone said, "Hey, we got this pack of stuff. What are we going to do with this?" I'm like, "Oh, that's exactly what I need right now." So we got all this stuff together for these little kids, and then we prayed that little kids would show up because we weren't sure what kids were showing up. But sure enough, these 4-year-old kids showed up, and the gifts we had that somebody had given to us months earlier were what we needed for that time. And there's time and time again, thing after thing that God has taught me from these trips. It's just He's a good God who has more than we need and more than we could even imagine, and yet. I think because the American church is settled with and happy with what we have, and we stay within our comfort zones, we stay within whatever's easy. God says, "Go ahead, man. You want to be there, you want to stay there. That's fine." We miss out on relationships. Julian, Terrence, Don, Mickey, these people we've connected with and interacted with internationally, they've changed our lives. They changed the way we think about Romania. In other places I've been, the relationships you start, there's no way to replace that with a Zoom conversation or with an email or a text. It's just not the same. God does these things, and we're willing to step outside of our comfort. We're willing to give to Him things that really we're not even sure we can afford to give. He always provides what we need. We go on a trip, we look at airline tickets, and we constantly chasing down trying to find the cheapest airline tickets. What are the cheapest airline tickets? And time again, God always not only gives us the airline tickets we need, but He provides the resources to pay for those tickets. And He gets us where we need to go and provides those things. So my challenge to you is you can sit back, be safe, be comfortable, and experience a God that's very, very mediocre, or you can step out of your comfort zone, step out into the difficulties, sacrifice a little bit, and see what He does. And I will tell you from time and time again, you're going to find Him faithful.
You know what? Something I thought about as you were sharing. It's not about the stuff; it's about the Savior.
Amen.
It's about the
Savior.
Savior. Yeah, and because that's what I'm picking up in what you've seen and experienced. We have this tangible project, specific A, B, C, and we should kind of have a broad idea and just hey, let's see what the Lord does in this broad plan that we've got here. I guess something to think about.
Yeah,
anyway,
for sure.
But no, Ken, thank you so much for meeting with me and taking this time.
Pleasure.
Yeah, and so, but if you want to contact Crossroads of East Tennessee, P.O. Box 362, Cleveland, Tennessee 37364, and AMG International. We'll have some info for them, and I'll have that as you see that, I'll share with you about that. But they're in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
6815 Shallowford Road, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Come by and visit us. We'd be delighted to see you. At least for now. We're trying to sell our buildings.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Big sign out there. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, hey, God bless you. May the Lord richly bless you in all you do. And let me share with you, of course, Christ, he said this, Matthew 28, Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. We have that promise. He is with us. As we are going, let's make disciples. Amen. May the Lord richly bless you and continue to pursue Christ in all that you do.